Welcome everyone to the Qolsys technical webinar on the PowerG Hardwire. We're really excited about this new device, and we hope that as you get comfortable and you get seated and testing your audio, making sure the volume's at the right spot, that you're as excited about this content as we are. Before we begin, I want to dive in with just a few technical things, some housekeeping items. The first one, of course, is that this webinar is being recorded. We will place it on our YouTube channel later on today, and you'll each receive an email link tomorrow to that webinar playlist. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, I highly recommend doing that. Just go to Qolsys.com and click on YouTube, or you can go to youtube.com/Qolsys, subscribe to that. Then you'll get not just our new webinars recordings as they come available, but you'll also get any new videos we make for marketing or technical or whatever reason will automatically appear in your feed and in your email. So it's a great way to get the new content as we publish it. We want to start today with a couple things. First off, just making sure that you know how to participate. This is going to be an interactive webinar. Our panelists have some great things planned to share, but we also want to make sure that you have a chance to interact with us, ask questions, make comments, etc. So I want you to find the chat or questions section in your GoToWebinar control panel and send us a little message. Maybe tell us where you're dialing in from, tell us what the weather's like, tell us if you're a member of our Facebook group, whatever you like. We just want to make sure that you can hear us okay and that we can see and interact with you okay. And as we do that, the other thing I want to do is start out with a couple polls here. So first poll question is, are you currently installing Qolsys products? And the answer is either yes or not yet. Our hope is that if you're not currently installing Qolsys products and that you're new to the brand, that maybe a few things that we'll say here will resonate with you and cause you to maybe go find out from your distributor what kind of products we'll have and talk to your salesperson or technical representative to make sure that you can get all the information you have. It looks like we've got the majority are currently Qolsys customers, so thank you very much. We appreciate your business, truly do. And for those of you that are not yet Qolsys customers, again, we hope that you'll enjoy what you see and hope that you will be able to reach out to us and help you to advance your business. The second question I want to know is, are you currently installing wireless systems or hardwire systems or hybrid systems? You can choose all that apply on this. Some of you are probably doing one or both or the other. Looks like the results are coming in quick. Looks like a lot of people are doing 90% doing hybrid systems. That's incredible. And then a good percentage doing hardwire systems, and an even larger percentage doing wireless systems, but a lot of people doing both. That's excellent. Well, it's great to see that. I mean, again, that's a big part of what today's topic is about kind of those hybrid or hardwire or wireless or all of the above. There's a lot of flexibility in what we're doing here. I'm gonna go ahead and close that poll, and I'm gonna ask you one last final poll question, and that is, what are you currently using for your hybrid or hardwire solutions? Most of you said that you're using a hybrid or hardwire solution today and doing those kind of installs. Are you using IQ panel with the IQ Hardwire 16F? That's the translator that takes the S-line frequency and also converts it into hardwire so that you can take the legacy hardwire system or lines already installed in the home and convert them into wireless. Are you using Neo hybrid? Or are you using something else? Maybe you've got another brand out there that you're using or another solution out there that you're using. This is useful for us because as we talk about maybe some of the things that you're used to using, some of the things you've done in the past, we can help relate that to some of the behaviors you're used to and things like that. And of course, it'll help put your questions and comments in context for us as well. So hopefully, you're all able to get in and chat. We've also got a couple great people on the line today. Joel Van Valkenburg, Mark Buckley, and Nate Anderson, who are all ready to and willing to take your questions. So as you're you're typing out your questions in the chat, making comments, things like that, they will be introducing themselves and interacting with you. So Mark, Michael, Frank, Santiago, Bryant, Josh, Jamie, Debbie, there's so many people joining in today from Campbell, Philly, Coconut Creek, Florida, Canada, the United Kingdom. We got all over the world. Corpus Christi, Texas, Calgary, Alberta, Barrie, Ontario, Plano, Texas, Michael, Angelia, I think that's Angelia. I apologize if I messed that name up. Aaron, Jeremy, Dustin, Dean, James, there's so many people in here today, and so many more joining in as the thing starts up. We've got a lot of, literally hundreds of people on the line today. So again, I don't want to delay this any further. One last thing before I go and let these guys take over is I do want to make sure that you guys are participating in our Facebook groups. Whether you decide to join Burglar Alarms Online, run by Jake Bull and his team, or you decide to join the QolsysAlarm.com installers, run by the Low Voltage team, or you want to join one of the official Qolsys technicians and installers group, or Qolsys sales and marketing group, or Qolsys distributors group, go online to Facebook, join in the conversation. There's a lot of great things happening, and our two presenters today are very active in all of those Facebook groups that I just mentioned. So if you'd like to personally interact with them or see what they have to say or things like that, there's no better place to go than Facebook, and you'll get some great interactions, not just from them, but from the entire technical team and the community as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mark Bateman and Neil Jones, both subject matter experts on this, who are going to present today's topic and talk about the IQ Hardwire PowerG. Gentlemen, take it away.
Jeremy, thank you so much. We always appreciate you helping us launch these and all that our marketing team does for us here at Qolsys JCI and with the PowerG product. Yeah, it's a pleasure today to be with Neil. Neil's up in Canada for us, and I'm down here in the States, and it's a pleasure to be co-hosting this with him. So let's get things going. The first thing we want to talk about is with our panel, the IQ panel. We always talk about how it's a wireless rock concert. We have 7 different radios, wireless radios that are working in sync in one single panel. And let's take a moment to appreciate the magnitude of this feat. So these 7 different protocols we have. First, we have LTE. And we always ask, why is LTE so important? Well, it's that long-term evolution. It's a radio that's going to be lasting for the next 10 to 12 years, depending on your provider. We've got the Wi-Fi connection. So, our panel's communicating both over LTE and Wi-Fi, as you guys know. We have that Bluetooth low-energy radio. All this packed into this tiny panel that's less than an inch thick. So it's a pretty awesome feat to have all that along with the access point. Those are the things over on the left. And then we have our SRFs, or security radio frequencies. So every panel we sell has that PowerG that we're going to get into today, and that's one reason why this deck we're sharing with you is just so amazing. And going over this new device is it's using PowerG and the amazing PowerG technology. Our panels also have a legacy frequency, and by default, our gold standard box is the S line, which speaks to the Qolsys sensors, and then we have Z-Wave Plus in every panel. So all of that in that one little panel that's less than an inch thick. And as we know, as time goes on, and we evolve and we innovate, looks do matter. And our customers, we know that they are willing to pay for products that meet their expectations for technologies. What kind of technology is everyone using? What kind of phones do they have? What kind of touch screens may people have in their cars? Technology matters and looks matter. And in this panel, we deliver that hands-free experience. This feature alone will help increase sales with the Bluetooth disarming. We have the user experience that really matters, and whether you're using the live answer on the panel or the live view, or just using that easy navigation to swipe between your lights, locks, thermostats, and so on, we've made this panel very user friendly. Range matters, and in the last couple of years, to be able to get PowerG into this panel and what that's done as far as taking the IQ panel to the next level has just been amazing. And it's helped resolve and provide a lot of solutions that we just didn't have in the past, and that's thanks to the PowerG technology. There's a free camera that comes in every panel. So it's a 5 megapixel camera that's built in. This will do disarm photos. In the event of any alarm, it'll do a 4-minute video clip. So if somebody was to break into a home, it records that, a 4-minute video clip. Now on top of that, there's a lot of cost savings. We have some very powerful diagnostics that are just built into the panel, whether it's our sensor test that allows you to measure the noise floor of the environment and see how legacy sensors are coming into that noise floor, or if it's our powerful Z-Wave diagnostics. These are things that can, help with retiring the truck is something we say, less truck rolls, but also helping a technician to get things done right the first time when he's there on site, and also to be really that installation professional where he can understand the panel and what's happening with the sensors on a much deeper level than I've ever seen before with other panels. So some really cool stuff we have in this panel that makes us different than than other panels that are out there. As many of you know, there's 3 different flavors of the panel. We have our silver box, which, first of all 3 of these, work with PowerG. They have that PowerG radio in it. But then they have 3 different legacy radios. And the first one, that silver box, supports the legacy 345 sensors, so 345 megahertz. And that would be your 2 gig on Honeywell. So this is perfect with, if you're a Honeywell home or 2 gig home, that's what you've been doing in the past. You might have a lot of existing customers that you'd want to upgrade. That's a perfect panel for that. The red box panel has the legacy 433, which is the older DSE sensors. And then our bread and butter panel that by far we sell the most of is the PowerG and S-line panel. So that's the 319 megahertz. That's going to work with your old ITI Interlogix GE sensors, and then our S-line encrypted sensors. And all of these have the Z-Wave Plus built into them, which is getting you double the range of your standard Z-Wave. On top of that, they all come in with Verizon, AT&T, or TELUS for up in Canada cell cards, cell communicators. Now, with these 3 flavors, we have different hardwire modules, hardwire converters that can be used with them. And the first one I want to talk about is the Hardwire 16F that we have seen from the poll we just took that a lot of you have been using the Hardwire 16F. One thing that's neat about that is you can use up to 8 of those with one panel. So it does solve a lot of questions for people. It does have support 2-wire smokes, but it doesn't have a lot of the things that this new device, the IQ Hardwire PowerG device, has in it. And the first thing is the PowerG device, Hardwire PowerG device, will work with all 3 panels instead of just the gold panel. And that's probably the biggest thing. But on top of it, it has programmable outputs and a bunch of things that we're going to get into today. And some people that might be new to PowerG or new to Qolsys might say, hey, what is PowerG? What's the difference? What is so good about PowerG? What makes it different than the legacy sensors that are out there or different sensors we've heard of or have used in our personal applications? Well, I would say some of the first things I want to talk about is the range. PowerG is known for its incredible range. It gets 4 times the range of your typical legacy sensors. And that's out of our panel. Out of the Neo panel, it gets even more range than that, probably like 8 times the range of your standard sensors, and that's open air. So it gets incredible range, and being at that lower 900 megahertz, it also gets really good penetration. So it goes really well as far as penetrating through walls and not getting just dampered where it gets really good open air range, but then in a building, it gets poor range that you might see with like those higher gigahertz, like the 5 gigahertz that people use for Wi-Fi or 2.4 gigahertz. It's also used for Wi-Fi. I mean, those just do not penetrate that well. PowerG is also known for having 2-way communication. So 2-way wireless communication, and people say, well, what does that mean? Remote access? What is this? Well, these sensors are actually able to communicate to the panel and say, hey, I've been tripped, or this is happening, smoke alarms going off, and they're also able to receive communication back from the panel. And this makes it so you can have remote access into these sensors. And remote access might be good for, if you have a motion or a glass break that's overly sensitive, you could access that remotely and lower the sensitivity. Also with the 2-way communication, it makes it so that if one smoke goes off, they all go off. They're wirelessly interconnected. You also have multi-channel frequency hopping. So these are jumping through multiple channels and just avoiding any interference. They also have adaptive transmission power, which translates into longer battery life. So up to 8 years of battery life, that adapted power transmission. and then they're encrypted with the 128-bit AES encryption. This is banking level encryption. So really incredible technology you're getting here. Really advanced encryption compared to what else is out there on the market. I'm going to pass this over to Neil now to explain more about PowerG.
Thanks, Mark. We often get questions about what is adaptive power transmission, which Mark just mentioned, and how do we provide that such a long battery life? So just imagine for a moment you're in a large college auditorium taking a class. The person in the back of the room is going to need to yell to be heard by the teacher. But the person in the front of the row will barely need to raise their voice. Because our PowerG sensors use two-way communication, they can tell how far away they are from the panel, and they can yell when they need to and whisper when they're close. Thereby we'll obviously save battery life and reduce our RF noise. You want to go to the next one, Mark?
Thanks.
All right, so here we go. We're excited to introduce our newest module. So, you spoke, we listened. So, we'll go into details on exactly what's included, but obviously PowerG, AES encryption, hardwired zones, programmable outputs, a dedicated fire loop, a bell output. Obviously, it would have backup power, and it works with alarm.com. Next one. Okay, so we're going to dive a little deeper into the actual module. So 8 zone inputs. These can be wired in normally open, normally closed, a single end of line, or a double end of line configuration. It will auto detect existing resistors from 1K to 10K. 4 programmable outputs. We've talked about, it'll have a supervised bell output. 2 independent auxiliary power loops. Right, so we can keep our Berg devices on one loop, our life safety devices on the second loop. Comes with an 18-volt DC power supply. There is a backup battery, 12-volt DC, 12-volt 7 amp, not included. You'll have to buy that separately. Dual tampers, which we'll talk about on the next slide. At launch, we are limited to 2 units per IQ panel. It is something that we are looking to expand, and we'll talk about that on the roadmap down the road here. And one key feature, the firmware has to be 2.5.3 or higher for the IQ PowerG hardwired module to be able to function on the panel. Go to the next one, Mark.
So Neil, real quick, if somebody wants to get the 253 software, what would they have to do to get that? Do you know?
Yeah, you got a couple options there. You can download it directly push it from alarm.com, through the upgrade firmware tool on the dealer portal, or you can enter, there's a couple different options. You can download the firmware directly from the Qolsys website, put it on an SD card or a micro SD card, I should say, and insert that into your IQ2 panel and then upgrade using the SD card, or you can do it by patch tag. So if anybody knows how to do that, you just basically are going into upgrade software. You're going to go into where it says patch tag. You're going to enter IQ panel 2.5.3, and then you're going to click upgrade using network, and the firmware will download, and the panel will likely reboot, and you will be up and running with the newest firmware we have out there. Great question. Okay, so installation. So pretty basic diagram here. We've got 4 mounting holes. Top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. Spot for a battery, obviously, where we have a wall tamper screw, which is key. So there's dual tampers, like we said. So there is the wall tamper screw on the back, and then we actually have the tamper for the cover as well. So just kind of giving you that extra protection, to make sure that nobody's going to be messing around with that module after you've installed it.
Thanks, Neil. And then I'm going to explain kind of just the wiring up the module. After you would mount it, of course, you're going to wire it up next. So up top, above this description, is where you would plug in your battery. Then starting from the left to right, you got your positive and negatives for your DC power, your bell output, the core bus, and then you got your aux 1 and 2. Those are kind of important. We'll talk about those and what you would want to use each one for. whether it's your security devices or your life safety, because there's two different ones there, and why would there be two different aux outputs? And then your PGMs. So you notice you got 4 different PGMs there that can be programmed, and then you get into your zones. So your zones can be wired, as you see down below, to be normally closed with a single end of line resistor, normally opened, or normally closed contact with the 5.6K resistor for double end of line resistor. So pretty basic wiring, and what you guys are used to, especially if you've been using the NEO. On top of that, if you are going to use the wiring in smokes, just a couple good things to know here is that with the 4-wire smoke, you'll notice that this is going to be connecting in, and both of these are going to be connecting into the PGM2, so the programmable output number 2 for your smokes. But mainly, you'll notice some of the differences here is that your 4-wire is, of course, wired up differently than your 2-wire. And also your 4-wire is going to use a 5.6K resistor, where your 2-wire is going to be using a 2.2K resistor. With the 4-wire, as far as your power terminal, that negative is going over to the PGM2, and then your positive is going over to the aux2. And then just your common is going to go over to the alarm terminal. And this wiring diagram we took straight out of the installation manual. So you'll notice that the 2-wire smokes is just much more basic, where you're going from your aux2 out, the positive side, wiring up your smokes, and you can do up to 18 2-wire smokes in a loop on this. Your last resistor, your resistor is going to go in at the end, and you'll notice that's a 2.2K resistor again, and it's just wired into that programmable output number 2. And you'll see the different compatible 2-wire smokes we have listed there below. And then prior to enrollment, the installer, you got to make sure you've wired it all up, and now you're going to be ready to enroll the device. So the module enrollment is going to be initiated from the panel. So once the panel is ready for pairing, the installer will press and hold the enrollment button on the module to initiate this pairing. We're going to show an example of this, Nila's, in just a second. But one thing I want to touch on real quick is that you don't want to hold that enrollment button down for longer than the 3 seconds. I mean, 3 seconds is how long you hold it for. If you were to just continue holding it and you did for longer than 10 seconds, it's going to default the device. So that's a good thing to know. If you wanted to default it, hold it down for 10 seconds, but just to enroll it, it's 3 seconds, just like your standard Z-Wave devices. So the module will utilize 8 zone slots on the panel. Each zone will be enabled and configured in zone definition section of panel programming. So you'll notice it's automatically, as you learn this in, all 8 zones are going to populate. And then the PGM outputs will support latching or timer functionality, and this is controlled by the panel. So it could be latching like a door lock, or a timer for like a siren. And then as we explained just barely, the PGM2 can be configured to operate as a 2-wire smoke loop using that aux2 terminal for power, or the 2-wire smoke loop is also compatible, once again, of supporting up to 18 smoke detectors.
All right, so we're going to do a quick walkthrough, like Mark said, of how to add the module to the IQ2 system. So you're going to enter your installer code. You're going to pull down on your options tray. We'll just wait for it to catch up. I'm a little quick. Pull down, we're going to hit settings, advanced settings, installation, devices, and security sensors. And we're going to hit the auto learn sensor button. So in this scenario, when I was recording this, I'd probably press the button on my module right now, and there we go. So we're going to say OK, and then right away you're going to be able to see, all the, your partitions. It's automatically showing up as a translator takeover. It's adding in the sensor. I will note, you can name the module anything you want, but having said that, if you are adding 2 modules, you will need to name them differently. just obviously because we're not allowed two zones or two devices of the same with the same name. And then you'll kind of notice the way it drops in, right? So it drops in, and it's very intuitive the way our partners at Qolsys design the firmware. So it shows you what input number on the module, versus the zone number on the panel, right? So in this scenario, you saw that the first two zones were the panel camera and I believe the IQ remote. So those first two zones were taken up. So then this drops into zones 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 10. All right, so next, I think we're going to try and show you, and hopefully these recordings are working for you, of how to activate the PGM. So it's going to be a very similar, you're going to enter the installer's code, pull down the options tray again, hit settings, advanced settings, installation, devices, security sensors, and then this time we're going to go add sensor. So in this scenario, you're going to enter the PowerG device ID of your module. And as soon as we drop that in, you will see it'll automatically now change PGM2 to be locked as the fire, like a dedicated fire loop. Super simple to use. Again, right, all you have to do is enter the serial number and it just automatically will lock you in there. We'll go to the next one. We're going to try and, again, we're going to now show you how to program PGMs. This is going to be a little more advanced, but I think it's going to give you some really good insight into just how this works. So again, same setup, installation, devices, security sensors, and then you're going to see a new option. PowerG output rules. So you're going to click PowerG output rules, choose which PGM you're going to want to edit. So in this case, I think PGM1 is what I edited. You're going to enter your output name. So in this scenario, I'm using a piezo. So a piezo buzzer hooked up to my PGM2. And then we have different options, right? So for output type, it could be normal or inverted. For your actions, so that, again, this is Mark mentioned earlier, latching or timer. What's really, impressive is the ability to now have a timer from 1 second to 300 minutes. So, a big change from our legacy, DSC products. Then you're going to be able to choose your trigger type. So again, you can use trigger types of system or zone. So if you use the zone trigger, you're going to have, whatever applicable zones along with the required status being open or closed. I evidently was speaking slower than the video for once. And if you're using system trigger, you'll have multiple options. So you can have these piezos trip on disarm, arming away, arming stay, exit and entry delays, or obviously just alarms. But you can trigger these PGMs, with a multitude of different options. And then all you have to do at the end is click add rule to save your changes. Mark, I'm going to send this back to you. You're on mute, Mark.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. So now we're going to go over and just kind of cover some of the best practices or the tips and tricks for this device. This is a new device. Like a lot of devices, there's certain things you can do to make life a little easier on yourself. So best practice number 1, all intrusion devices should be powered from the aux1, and all life safety devices should be powered from aux2. So yeah, your two different options there. Also, partitions on the PGM output entry screen will only appear if partitions are enabled. So you got to make sure you have your partitions enabled if you need them. If you're doing a partition system. When utilizing a PowerG key fob as a latching programmable output, pressing the start button will also unlatch the PGM. Motion sensors will not allow the option for latching action. Latching actions will change state when a contact opens or closes. I know we just went over this, but to enable 2-wire smoke functionalities on the IQ panel, on the IQ Hardwire PowerG, once again, we just showed you this. You go into installation, security sensors, you add it. You're going to be entering the ID of the IQ Hardwire PowerG. That's going to be found on the box. So that same ID you've been seeing when you learned in your 8 zones, when you enter that in, it automatically populates the PGM to and it enables it for the 2-wire smokes. That just happens automatically. Also, when programming any smoke on the IQ Hardwire PowerG, remember its PGM2 will be locked as used by smoke detector. So it's only going to be used by a smoke. It cannot be changed to be used by something else. Then you got multiple rules can be programmed to each PGM output. Duplicate rules or conflicting rules on the same PGM output will generate an error message. And then in another important note, last one is firmware 2.5.3. Only door and window contacts, key fobs, and motion sensors can be utilized for zone trigger types. Other zone types will be released in future firmware releases. So we're going to be making some improvements. This is, you could say this is version 1.0, and we will, as always, innovate and look to improve this product and add additional features to it. One thing I want to touch on real quick, since this is being recorded, and there was an error we made earlier. There was a slide that showed, the power supply as 2.2 amps. It should have said 1.2 amps. So since this is just, if you guys are reviewing it, that was the slide 10. It was supposed to be 1.2 amps. Neil, back to you.
All right. So our roadmap. We've seen a lot of the questions, as Jeremy mentioned, on our Facebook pages and our social media. So, the roadmap for this device, I think, is going to be, pretty exciting for folks. So, right now the core bus is not functional on the device, but in 2.5.4, so the next firmware release from Qolsys, we will be able to add keypad support, and it sounds like it'll be up to 2 keypads per module, potentially more, but right now we're going to say it looks like it'll be two keypads per module. Those will be our standard Neo keypad, so you don't need to buy a special keypad. You have Neo keypads in stock. You'll be able to, probably in the next, we'll say 60 to 90 days, you'll be able to, then use the PowerG Neo keypads directly on your Qolsys IQ2 system, which I think is awesome. You may have noticed on one of the previous slides, we didn't point it out because we don't want to wreck surprises. We will be adding zone expander support. So again, through that core bus, once it's enabled, we will be adding zone expander support. So again, standard zone expanders will be able to function on this device as well. We're going to be adding additional zone types in 2.6.0, which will be in our next major firmware release. So that would include some of the zone followers for carbon monoxides or flood detectors. As Mark had, gave you the limitations in 2.5.3 on the last slide. And then sensor group following. This is something, and this is feedback from, our valued partners, right? We heard that you would like to see a sensor group following ability for the PGMs. So, if we use, water bugs as an example, that if one water bug goes off, it's basically going to trip the PGMs associated to all of those water bugs if you had multiple water bugs in there as well. Again, there is a limit right now of 2 of these modules per panel, but that is going to increase. We just do not have the final number yet or the date, but we are looking to be able to add, I would say significantly more than 2 modules to this, down the road to our IQ2 Plus panels. Mark?
Hey, Neil, we had a question come in, and this is a good time to bring it up. Are you able to, have we done testing, and can you mix and match on one of these modules with the IQ Hardwire 16F? So, if you had a larger system, could you use this PowerG, the IQ Hardwire PowerG and the IQ Hardwire 16F?
There is no, as far as I know, there would be absolutely zero reason you couldn't. I think that's a great question, but they are, obviously you would be able to use, as long as you're using the gold standard box, you'll be able to use the 16F, but this module on any of the panels. But intermixing them should be no problem at all. Great.
Awesome. So moving on, this is one platform, every solution, whether it's a, residential situation and with PowerG getting into very large residential, and even, somebody had a guest house or a pool house. This gives you the ability to get into that small, medium-sized and commercial business. In the builder, as you know, our panel works great with wellness. and has some great wellness solutions with the new wellness screen we added this past year. It's also a great panel for MDU, and also when you get into that, being able to look at your electrical and power, we have all these different options. And this last slide is showing our large enclosure for the Hardwire 16F, but being able to pair those together, with this Hardwire PowerG, just really helps take this panel to another level. And I've never been so excited of having a product come out. I feel like, as Neil said when we first started, you guys spoke for a long time. I've gotten so many emails, so many phone calls. Can you guys make it so you have a hardwire converter that's PowerG that gets really good range? And you guys spoke, we listened, and it's been awesome to see what's been developed and the innovation that's happened with the collaboration of many teams. So some really amazing stuff we've been able to make happen.
Great. So I guess we should open the floor to any questions. What do we have?
So right now what we'll do is we want to appreciate everybody for getting on. We want to leave this webinar up and going for a second. And this is so our panelists that have been helping with questions can go through and answer, all those questions out there. And if you guys have any additional questions, ask away. This has been an amazing little webinar we've had today with a great attendance. Hundreds of people were able to attend. So we appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to get to know this product a little better. Please ask any questions you want. And if you don't have an opportunity to ask questions right now, you can always reach out to one of us personally. Send me an email. So my email is mark.bateman, BATEMAN, @Qolsys.com, at least for right now. It's probably going to be updated soon. But you can reach out to me, and I can help you answer any questions you need to, and I'm sure Neil would be available also.
Yep, and mine would be just neil.jones@jci.com. So again, just please reach out. We're more than happy to help, and I think this module is going to definitely be a bit of a game changer for all of us.
And I'm gonna, just in case, I'm gonna unmute some of our panelists, Joel, Mark, Nate. If there's any questions you guys feel like that are relevant to the field, or feel free to share those.
Hey, Mark. Just a lot of people asking. This is Joel, by the way. Sorry. A lot of people asking about the core bus. I've seen this question over and over, and for future expansion. So just in case anyone missed it, that core bus on future updates, we are looking to support Hardwire Neo keypads as well as Hardwire Neo zone expanders.
Dude, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so out of the gate, that is not supported on this 253 software. But as Neil just explained, that is on our roadmap. Once again, that's something that we talk about voice of the customer, and it's something that we try to take very serious. Is what are the needs of our customers and of the dealers out there and end users. And so yeah, that is on our roadmap and something we look to have out in the future support.
Hey, I got another one that I like as well. Can this zones that are on the same module be on different partitions?
Yes, 100%. They can be on, obviously 4 partitions on the panel. You can have those zones on that module split between 4 partitions if you wanted, or just 1 or 2, or whatever you want.
Then there's another question just saying, how many, if you were to max out the panel, how many zones could it take? Even if you're mix and matching sensors and hardwire converters, the panel will do 128 total security zones.
Hey, Mark, it looks like Joel and them are all muted again.
Sorry, guys, I'm looking for another question for you. There's a bunch here, but a lot of similar ones, so I'm trying not to give you the same ones.
Yes. What was that question there,
Come on.
Neil? About that?
Throw us a softball somewhere.
Throw you a softball. Is it shipping now?
It is shipping now. It is in distribution, and and obviously the 2.5.3 is dropped, and that firmware is available. Contact your favorite distributor and get them ordered.
So this was an easy one. Does the panel allow zone doubling? And for those of you that don't understand what that means, we're not talking about double end of line for high security applications. This particular question meant if you zone double with two different values, you could have more zones, and that's a feature that some hardwire panels have. The answer is no, this does not allow zone doubling in that definition.
Good call.
Hey guys, is this module compatible with any other panel other than the IQ2 Plus?
You knew that question was coming. Currently, the module is only compatible with the Qolsys on the correct firmware. It is on the roadmap to be available for Neo and Pro. We just don't have the dates yet. We had to prioritize what the biggest win and the biggest demand from the field was, and that was to have it enabled on the Qolsys right away.
And then could you run through the end of line, the end of line enrollment again? We have some questions about the auto enroll for the end of line.
Sorry, Joel, what's the question?
How to detect the end of line, like how that process is done?
It automatically detects it.
All right. Any other questions, guys? Well, once again, thanks for getting on today. We'll let Neil wrap this up.
I just want to thank everybody for their time, and again, reach out to Mark or myself or any of the TAMs or technical sales trainers, and we're all very, very familiar with the module. Super excited for this. I've been a DSC user prior to joining DSC for years, and this module is one of the it's been a while since I got really excited about a new module or a new PowerG device, and this one I think is definitely a game changer for us. So I just want to thank everybody for their time. And anything else you want to add to that, Mark?
I just say everybody, have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, can we stay on for a little bit and I can answer some questions in the background?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.